Hello and welcome to Fin Business. Today we are in conversation with Mastercard and we are going to talk with Mr. Vikas Saraogi. Hi Vikas, thank you so much for talking to Fin Business. There
Thanks.
are many areas that I would like to learn from you. To start with, I would like to understand merchant acceptance payment system from you. So could you tell me the trends that is there in the merchant acceptance system in the India right now? And can you also compare with the global system that what are the trends globally?
So let me give you a sense of where we are as a country in terms of merchant acceptance business. So in India is largely an informal economy, right? And we, as per various estimates, there are about 60 million merchants in India, out of which I would say less than 2 million unique merchants accept digital payments today. So by any standards, if you compare this with any country across the globe, the penetration of digital payments in India is among the lowest.
Okay.
Right? So less than 5% merchants accept card payments, right? So if you compare this with a country like UK, which is a developed market, so in India, number of POS terminals per million people is about 900. If you compare this with UK, it is almost about, UK is at 21,000. So it is almost about 25 times. Whereas if you compare India with emerging markets like Brazil, they are 15 times ahead. China is almost like 12 times ahead. So there's a huge, I would say, potential in the Indian market to grow the digital acceptance and get a lot of merchants into the digital acceptance ecosystem. So that's a large opportunity, and that is where I think even the government today is pushing all the stakeholders in the market to grow the merchant ecosystem.
Okay.
And this is fundamentally very, very important, as India has a lot of entrepreneurs, lot of SMEs and micro merchants, which form the backbone of the economy. It is very important for us as a nation to empower these people. And I think digital acceptance is the first, I would say, basic step that we need to take to empower these guys. So I'll just give you an example. A merchant today accepts only cash. He finds it very difficult to get a loan from the bank. Right? But what will happen is if we start accepting digital payments, a lot of NBFCs and banks would be able to lend money to him, would be able to give him working capital limits. Therefore, he can grow his business to a significantly larger level. Right? So that is the potential. It is not only about accepting digital payments, but empowering the SMEs and micro merchants of the country to go to the next level. And that is where I think Mastercard, our vision to create a world beyond cash, and we work very closely with all the stakeholders of the ecosystem to empower the merchants, the acquirers, and the banks, and so on and so forth.
I mean, it's an ambitious plan, okay, and it sounds really nice. The concept is really good when you say that we want to build an over cash economy system or a cashless society. It sounds really good. But if you look at India, India is based out of villages. 60-70% people still stay in a rural India, and it's been dominated by still the small merchants. There are companies who came into the online system and they started offering free recharges. People went and bought those recharges. When there was a cashback, people went and took the advantage of it. But if you actually look at, many people still are using and going to the small vendors, small merchants. If I ask you specifically, what kind of strategy you are going to implement to be associated with the small merchants? What is your plan of action to connect to all these millions and billions of small traders, small vendors, small merchants?
You're absolutely right that there has been a proliferation of wallets, right? Multiple wallets in the market. Now the point is, consumers will use the medium which is most seamless, most convenient, and most secure. Wallets could be working because there are incentives being thrown at the consumers, but any sustainable business cannot run purely in the form of incentives, right? So what we understood was there was a need in the market to develop alternate acceptance solutions, because the existing legacy systems that we had, or solutions we had, which were based on physical hardware, were expensive when you look at them in the context of the size of the merchants. So just to give you an example, a small merchant, an acquirer, typically would take more than 5 years to even break even, to even recover the cost of that hardware that we have. So therefore, it is very difficult for the acquirers to onboard merchants, small merchants, micro merchants in rural areas. So what we did was we came out with this solution called QR solution, which is MasterPass QR, which essentially was a low cost acceptance solution. And during demonetization, when there was a challenge in front of the country to onboard merchants and to get consumers to use digital transactions because money was in short supply, that is when we went to the government and the regulator and showcased the solution. And then all of us, all the networks, including RuPay and Visa and Amex, all of us had got together and and came out with this Bharat QR solution, which is an interoperable QR solution. So just to give you a sense, a normal POS terminal would cost you anything between 5,000 to 10,000 rupees. A Bharat QR sticker makes it absolutely close to zero. The cost of the hardware and the maintenance cost reduces dramatically. And the beauty of the product is, at a merchant or at a merchant store, he would not want to have multiple QR solutions, right? Because then it becomes extremely confusing for the merchant and the consumer. Therefore, Bharat QR was created in India. It was made in India, okay, and it's an interoperable QR solution which takes into account all the networks, right? And now we are taking it globally.
Okay.
Something which was made in India, now it is going global. So I think that's a solution which can solve for a lot of pain points of the micro merchant and small merchants, especially in rural areas, in tier 2 and tier 3, because it kind of solves for the cost of the acceptance to a larger extent.
So I would like to understand now, what are the main points when you actually deal with the small merchants, when you actually go to meet small traders? What are the pain points that you get it from them, and how do you actually resolve those issues? Do you feel that Bharat QR code is the ultimate solution to reduce this kind of problems? Do you think that the Bharat QR code will actually digitize the transactions between the small vendors, small merchants?
What we think is Bharat QR is the first step of getting a merchant into the digital ecosystem. Okay, so you have products like Bharat QR, you have MPOS terminal, and then you have a full-fledged normal POS terminal. What we think is Bharat QR would be the solution for the base level solution for micro merchants. Once they go up in the value chain, and maybe then they can upgrade the solution to an MPOS terminal, and then further upgrade to a normal GPRS or a POS terminal. So we think Bharat QR is the starting point to get merchants, a lot of merchants quickly into the ecosystem, and from there on we can build value added services around it. We can help the merchant get funding from various partners of ours, and we can really create a very good value proposition for the merchant. Because for the merchant, it's not only about accepting payments, it's way beyond that. The idea is, how can you partner with a merchant to grow his business and share his vision to grow his business, which is not only accepting payments, but also giving value-added services, giving him lending, helping him in terms of working capital limits, and so on and so forth.
So we have almost completed a year after demonetization, we can say. We're close to complete a year, we are very close by. What is the changes that you have seen after demonetization? Because the whole ecosystem is going or heading towards digital India. Many companies, many banks, many insurance companies, and entire BFSI sector is keen on making this country a digital, creating a digital ecosystem in this country. At the same time, many people started adopting digital. So what is the major change that you have seen at Mastercard, and how the situation will be in next 2 to 3 years?
I think the biggest challenge for any business, or the biggest difficulty that anybody faces today, is how do you change the mindset of people? If you talk to any marketing guy, that's the most difficult thing to do. I think that is what demonetization did. It impacted the psyche of the consumer and the merchant. So, for example, my father, he never used any card before demonetization. He was kind of forced to use his card for the first time, and now he is a regular user. So that's the change I think demonetization has done. It has changed the consumer and merchant behavior, and also his psyche to a great extent. Now we have to build on that, and I think that is where the government is doing a phenomenal job, right? So demonetization was just one of the steps that they took, and I think GST, which is Goods and Services Tax, I think that is even better for the digital ecosystem, and I'll tell you how. India is largely an informal economy. A lot of merchants or SMEs don't even have valid registrations. And that's the reason why banks were not able to provide them acquiring services. With GST coming in, a lot of SMEs and micro merchants will get their registration numbers, GST numbers, which will make it far more easier for banks and acquirers to provide them acquiring services.
Absolutely.
Right? So therefore, we are very well positioned as an economy now. With the help of the government and regulator, there's enough sensitivity built into the system. And I think over the next 3 years, let me stick my neck out, but I think we should have at least 10 to 12 million merchants in the country.
What is the focus area for Mastercards going ahead?
Our vision is to create world beyond cash, and merchant acceptance is being a forefront of our strategy in India. If India has to become a less cash economy, the first building block is to enable a large part of the merchant ecosystem to accept digital payments. Okay? So our strategy is very clearly centered around building a digital ecosystem for the merchants, helping the consumers, making the transactions simpler and seamless. So we have launched contactless transactions, which is basically use your card or a mobile device to tap and do the transaction. The transaction goes seamlessly and in a much more faster and secure manner. So overall, our strategy has been to build partnerships with various stakeholders of the ecosystem, some of these new fintech players, and bring technologies which can enable a lot of these stakeholders to grow the digital ecosystem of India. And we are partnering with the regulator, and we are very well engaged with the government of India to help in this less cash journey. And we are together working on the same. And I'm very confident that we will achieve our vision of the Prime Minister to create a less cash economy.
On that note, Vikas, it's first wish you the best, and we believe that Mastercard will achieve its goal of world beyond cash. We wish you the best from the Fin Business.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for talking to Fin Business.